traffic somewhere.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay.
Got a couple of minutes.
Yeah,
We're
no,
just
that's
going to ring
fine.
to find out how far.
Yep.
And
Yeah,
too
no,
far
no,
this way.
no, no dramas. First of all, can you hear me clearly enough? Not really? Okay. Richard? We meet here today to pay tribute to the life of John and express your love for him. Welcome, and on behalf of the family, they sincerely thank you all for your love and support at this deeply sad time. Thank you also to those who have travelled from afar to be here for John's farewell. My name is Chrissy Denasement. I'm a celebrant and have been asked to conduct the service for John. I would sincerely offer my condolences to you all at this very sad time. Before we begin the service, the family would like to acknowledge and thank the following people. Firstly, Dr. Loretta Radford, thanks for your care you gave to Dad, but more importantly for the genuine compassion you showed him. You made him feel comfortable with what was happening, even during the times when there was confusion and it felt like there were two very different conversations happening at once. Your calmness and your kindness meant a great deal to him and to all of us. To the district nurses, especially Donna and Lou, thank you for taking such wonderful care of Dad. The work you do is so incredible. Coming into people's homes when they're at their absolute worst and still bringing positivity and bubbly personality makes such a difference. We are deeply grateful for the care and the dignity that you gave him. Dear Uncle Bill, you have been incredible over the last 7 months, and you have done far more than we could have ever properly thanked you for. After Dad's terminal diagnosis, we were sitting with the palliative care team when Dad turned to us and said, "I don't want to end up in a home." Without you, Dad's wishes simply wouldn't have been possible. The care you gave him went far beyond what anyone could have expected. Dad included. That's the true bond between brotherly and twin love. For him to pass away in his own home, surrounded by all of us, exactly how he wanted, is something we can never repay you for. Though the feeling of numbness and disbelief were paramount, you, family and friends have all shared parts of John's life, with tears and with laughter. And as we have gathered here today, an acknowledgement of John's life will be given by all that have loved and who have known him. Grief comes in many forms, and it's important to acknowledge these emotions. It's all right to cry, to feel an overwhelming sense of sadness and loss, and it's all right to feel happiness and to laugh. These emotions are all part of the connection that you have had with John. John touched all your lives in so many ways, whether it being through a son, a brother, a husband, father, grandfather, uncle, cousin, friend, work colleague, or just a neighbour. Thomas John Casley, born 28th of March 1950, departed the 31st of January 2026. Dearly loved and treasured son of Stuart and Joan, dearly loved and treasured brother and brother-in-law of Ted deceased and Raywin, Bill and Diane. Dearly loved and treasured father and father-in-law of Reese and Jacinda, Fiona and Matt, Daryl and Claire. dearly loved and treasured grandfather of Jaden, Olivia, Josh, Sienna, Chase, Fletcher and Parker. Dearly loved and treasured uncle of all his nieces and nephews. And dearly loved and treasured cousin, friend and work colleague. On behalf of the family, I will be reading John's eulogy. We're here today to celebrate a man who didn't need to shout to be heard, a man whose actions spoke volumes, whose hands were really still, whose heart, though he might not have worn it on his sleeve, was fiercely loyal to the people he loved. John's story began in Ponsonby in 1950. He arrived into the world with a built-in best friend, his twin brother Bill, and joined by his older brother Ted. When the family moved to Grey Lynn, when John was about 2, his personality started to shine through. Even then, John was a doer, not a sitter. He attended Westmere Primary School, then progressed to Pasadena Intermediate, and then Seddon High School. But let's be honest, the classroom was never going to contain John Casley for long. The story goes that John spent far more time hanging out with the caretakers than he ever did with the teachers. He had itchy feet and capable hands. So at just 15 years old, in 1965, he left the school books behind and began a sheet metal apprenticeship at A&T Boots. That decision marked the start of a lifetime defined by an incredible work ethic. John lived by a simple code. If a job's worth doing, you do it properly. And you finish what you started, even though in his older years this was slow, but it was methodical. At the tender age of 17, the family life changed forever when his mum passed away. While other teenagers might have been focused on themselves, John stayed at home to support his father. It was an early glimpse of the loyalty that would define his entire life. By 21, however, the horizon was calling, and he set off for an adventure through Australia and Papua New Guinea. He tried Sydney, but found the pace of life a bit too frantic, eventually settling in Canberra, where he helped build aeroplanes. That era gave the family some legendary stories, particularly when Bill and Diane visited. Between the atrocious weather, the long, winding road trips, and the certain infamous tent that still gets mentioned half a century later, memories were made and they have stood the test of time. In the mid-70s, John returned to New Zealand with the said tent in the boot of the Holden, moving to the Waikato. It was there he met Lynn. Together they built a foundation welcoming their 3 children, Reese, Fiona and Daryl. In 1983, the family made the defining move to Whitianga. For the next 30 years, John was the engine room of the family. He was a man of many hats. He owned Bread Run, drove a freight truck, later worked at OPC, but his work didn't stop when he clocked off. He was right there beside Lynn, supporting her through her catering business, the fresh fish shop, and Flippers, the fish and chip shop. Those were long, demanding years. The days were early, the nights were late. But you never heard John complain. That just wasn't his way. If things got tough, John simply worked harder or popped into the local game fishing club for a cold pint on his way home. Now, for those who knew John, knew he was a quiet man. He was happiest in the company of family and a small circle of friends, or quite happily just by himself. He wasn't big on I love yous or grand emotional speeches, but not once did his family ever doubt the absolute love he had for them. He showed it in everything that he did. He showed it by being present. From the day Reese, Fiona and Daryl were born, he offered protection and guidance, and in that steady, unspoken way of his. He was there for every milestone, most sports days, even if it was reading the newspaper in the ute, every job, and everything else that life threw their way. He taught them how to drive, how to fix things, and perhaps most importantly, back themselves and love deeply. He was never quick to judge. He would just look at them and shake his head and say, well, that was stupid, or just shrug and smirk, and somehow that covered everything that needed to be said. You cannot tell John's story without mentioning his lifelong joy of dogs. It started when he was a child and continued right through to through his 70s. He was really a time in his life when a dog wasn't nearby, usually looking at him adoringly. Whether it was his own loyal companion, dog sitting for the family, or simply grabbing the neighbour's dog to take it for a walk because he felt like stretching his legs, John had a special connection with animals. John loved the lifestyle in Whitianga. He loved being on or near the water and driving his tractor around the estuary mud. And anyone who drove with John knew there was no such thing as a direct route. A 5-minute trip would turn into a tour. Past the Robinson Road boat ramp, check on the wharf, a look at the beach. He was always observing, always checking, and on his patch. In all the places that he lived in, he became the neighbourhood Mr. Fix-It. It wasn't unusual for the kids from down the street to turn up with broken bike, knowing John would help. There was no fuss, no expectation of payment, just kindness and a toolbox. This continued even to his end, where his shed had more tools from all walks of life, lawnmowers and gardening equipment, along with random bits and pieces that would put Bunnings to shame. In his 50s, after a long absence, John rediscovered a passion that gave him immense joy, his motorbike. He fell in love with it all over again. He loved the solitude of riding, the freedom of the open road, and a chance to clear his head. It gave him a place of peace, and as he would probably admit with a grin, it was one place where no one could talk to him. Whether it was on the bike or hitched up to his caravan, John loved just to go. No plans, no timetable, just follow the impulse of the day. Even later in life, after being made redundant and moving to Macketown, John couldn't sit still. He worked maintenance at the meatworks and eventually the kiwi fruit orchards. A change of pace he generally enjoyed. He even headed south to pick cherries, proving that you can't keep a good worker down. But of all the roles that John played, husband, father, brother, worker, his favourite role was undoubtedly Grandpa. John's greatest love was his 7 grandchildren. He was an amazing dad, but he was an absolute fantastic grandpa. He was always there to help, but mostly he was there for the fun. He loved taking them places and making memories, and as grandparents do, he loved letting them get away with things they would never have gotten away with at home. He proudly embraced the role of the fun and sometimes naughty grandpa. Looking around at everybody gathered here today, John would have been truly humbled. In fact, he probably would have stood at the very back of the room and had a quiet look around, checked his watch, and wondered what all this fuss is about. Today we say goodbye to a man who lived simply, worked incredibly hard, and loved deeply. In fact, he probably, as above, wondered what all the fuss was about. We will miss him more than words can say, but his values, his lessons, his love for a good road trip, and his quiet strength live on in all of you, and especially in the grandchildren who were lucky enough to call him Grandpa. Rest in peace, John. You've earned it. At this stage, I'd like to ask family to come forward if they have any further memories that they want to share. And after family, I invite anybody else that would like to come to the floor. If you don't feel that you can speak, that's just fine, because at afternoon tea, you can share your further stories. Thank you.
Cool. Well, thank you very much for making the effort. Being here, pretty much every person here has to drive somewhere. There's very few people that live in Mackie Town, so thank you very much for turning up. Reese and Fiona kindly volunteered me to get up and speak today, which was mighty good of them. I don't ever remember drawing straws, but here I am. The joys of being the youngest. So I've kind of written something on their behalf. In the end, something a little bit more light-hearted, a couple of stories, so I'll do my best to get through them. Dad was the most influential person in our life, and we are who we are today because of him. We all had a great childhood, and almost all of our memories included Dad somewhere along the lines. He was always there, steady, reliable, and present. Even though at the time, being young, you don't realise how much that matters at the time. As we've gotten older, we've come to understand just how much he'd done for our family. The long days, the hard work, and the responsibilities that he carried. He never complained, he just got on with it. Watching him taught us what it means to show up, to work hard, and to do the right thing. His sense of humour and his work ethic are the two biggest things that he has given us. They've shaped the way that we live our life, and they've helped us succeed as adults. Those are also the things that we want to pass down to all of his grandchildren, so that they grow up with some of the same values, the strength and the character that he gave us. We will make sure his lessons, his stories and his values live on. Made it, that part. Good. Now that's the emotional bit, so a couple more stories which kind of wanted to paint more of the picture that we saw Dad growing up, not just the guy that worked, but growing up with Dad was a lot of fun. Like we've already touched on, he loved road trips, especially the kind that you get in the car and just go. You'd have no idea where you're going or how long you'd be. You could be going down to check the boat ramp, go past the wharf, or you could be gone for 4 hours, just stopping for an ice cream along the way. One time I had a friend over, Dad suggested we go for a drive. There were 3 of us sitting across the bench seat of his Toyota Hilux, again thinking we were heading to Simpson's Beach or somewhere nearby. But we started heading out of town and just kept on driving. I look back and I think Dad had no idea where we were heading at the time, but we ended up in Tauranga, some 2.5 to 3 hours away. When we got there, we noticed the Spirit of New Zealand sailing ship was tied up, so naturally we headed down for a look. Dad starts chatting to one of the crew members, which turned into a guided tour of the ship with me and my friend. And that was kind of Dad in a nutshell. You get in the car, no idea what was happening, and end up with an adventure. Another time we went on one of those famous road trips, we headed to Kuatunu. Halfway along the road, he decided we'd try to get to Waitoa Bay, which at the time was a 4-wheel drive track, bumpy, windy, and big canyons all over it, especially with the weather we'd had. Again, sitting in Dad's work ute across the front of it. I guess that's where I get my love of work utes from and what they can do. But we started driving, and all along the way we're driving, there's these 4-wheel drive signs, 4-wheel drive access only signs. We keep looking at them, bouncing around, thinking, where are we going? Finally get to one of them. It says, last turnaround point, you must turn around without 4-wheel drive. Dad looks at it and goes, can't be much worse than this. So, we push forward, we go around a couple of corners, and the road just disappears into the bush. And Dad goes, oh, that must be the bit that we need a 4-wheel drive for. So I was thinking, Jesus, this whole thing has been 4-wheel drive. But what I haven't mentioned is that I was currently in a neck brace from a pretty serious neck injury, and getting bounced around like a pinata wasn't helping much with the recovery. So we back up, Dad embarrassed, backs all the way around these tight corners. We start driving home. And kind of halfway home, he goes, "How's your neck?" I said, "It's okay, but pretty sore." Another couple of minutes goes by. "All right, we probably don't need to tell your mum about the off-roading part." Like we mentioned in the eulogy as well, Dad also loved dogs, or loved walking them. Not many people can have a reputation of breaking dogs by overwalking them, but there's a few out there that Dad's walked the feet off, broken at some point, or they just hide from him. Growing up, we had a basset hound, and every time Dad would get the lead, this thing would fake a sore paw, would start limping dramatically. It just knew that Dad's idea of a walk was far different than everybody else's. But Dad met his match when he met Jasper, his Ridgeback Cross, those long walks that they go on. Some people would train for months with riding gear, packs, the whole lot. But not Dad. He'd head off just as Jandals out for a morning walk. We used to joke that he was a missing persons case waiting to happen. He'd never tell anyone where he was going or how long he'd be. He'd just go and decide on his way. We'd often say if the police turned up and asked where we think that they could start looking for him, or we could say we'll start in the North Island. If you don't find him, head south. And that was Dad, really. He didn't just give us memories, he gave us moments. The kind you don't realise are special at the time, but many years later, you retell them and they're still funny. Whether it's going for a short drive, a short walk, or some random detour, he knew how to make things fun.
Thank you all for coming. Those who don't know me, my name is Casley. I'm John's twin brother, the built-in lifelong friend. I've got a few things I want to read out. I will begin by acknowledging John's name, Thomas John Casley, known as John. Thomas and John are traditional names given to boys in our family going back at least to the time of the Napoleonic Wars. Our first settler to New Zealand was a John. He arrived with his wife Mary Jane and their two boys, John and Thomas. You see what I mean? We are gathered here at this place because this place was chosen by John. We are here beside the Karangahake Mountain, the gorge, and the Ohinimuri River because they are John's Turangi Waiwai. This is John's place. This is not the first time the Casleys have been here. We first arrived at Paeroa at the time of the mining. Our grandfather, Thomas John, drowned Paeroa in that very river outside where it moved past the township of Paeroa. Our grandmother, Edith, gathered up her children, including our father, and moved to Auckland. For the next two generations, the Casleys grew up as Aucklanders. Our history and ties to this area were all but forgotten. Yet somehow, John's life journey, with its twists and turns, eventually returned him here. Did this come about by the choices John made? Was it just third chance, the way things turned out? Or something more spiritual, a cosmic force that eventually brought him here to his Turangi Waiwai? I wish to acknowledge John's community at the settlement of Macketown. This was his base, and I came to see what this meant for him. The rhythm of the life of his community. Donna checking her mail, Mike's car starting up, going out, the old gentleman out on his walker for his daily walk with his daughter, the cars passing, sounds such as the occasional crying of the baby across the road, lawns being cut. This wasn't just outside noise to John. This was his community going about its business. It meant where he knew where he was, and it's where he wanted to be. I wish to pay tribute to John's neighbours and friends, Mike, Leah, Donna, and Carlos. They truly were ready and willing to help in any way they could. From day one, they came over and commiserated with John. He knew his neighbours were there for him, in deed and spirit. I wish to pay tribute to those who I will loosely embrace as John's health team, from the surgeon at Waikato Hospital, who in a phone call gave us the devastating news that John's cancer was untreatable and aggressive, to Llewellyn, the district nurse, who came and signed off on John's death certificate. The word thank you cannot convey the mountain of emotion that is felt with that word in these moments. I wish to pay tribute and pass on my love to John's children, Reese, Fiona and Darryl. There is so much here that I'm simply lost for words to say. John said at every opportunity that he is so proud of his children. I can only agree. You gave your dad everything he wished for during this time, and you were equally there for each other. I know that beside each of you were your partners, Jacinda, Matt and Claire, soaking up your sorrows and making time for you to be with your dad. That last Christmas, with you all together with your kids, and John still well enough to join in and enjoy Christmas ham. This was a hallmark moment for John. There were times he didn't think he would make it to Christmas. John kept in his heart his 7 grandchildren. Every phone call, every visit from John's children included questions from John about what the grandkids were doing, where the grandkids came to see Grumpy, hugs were given and taken before a round of questions about who was doing what. Growing up doesn't go on pause. He got to see Olivia stepping into adulthood as a confident, competent young woman, now about to start uni. Josh turning 16, starting the path to getting his driver's license, and what that means for a young man. Their surf lifesaving. John's memories of Jaden never diminished. He talked of Jaden as easily as he talked about all his other grandkids. John followed news of Sienna's football academy trip to the Gold Coast. Chase, according to John, was becoming more confident as he stepped into his teen years. John, like us all, was impressed with Fletcher and Parker's Christmas present of a 3D printer, and when they were the things they were soon knocking out for it. Although John did keep asking me, what was that machine thing called? I want to acknowledge John's former wife, Lynn. After a long time together, with lots of shared love and adventures, their love faded and they went separate ways. This never stopped John from being always grateful for the wonderful children Lynn gave him and her devotion and care in raising their children. They say every cloud has a silver lining. While there were those times when the tears would well up in the pit of my stomach and overflow my eyes, I'm going to confess to what I call my moments of guilty happiness. The time spent with truly remarkable health workers who neither John nor I would otherwise have met. The time for me to get to know John's children, their partners and their kids in ways and at levels of emotion that might never otherwise have happened. The time John and I got to spend together. Being a twin isn't better, but it is different. There isn't a time when you don't have the other same age, same person with you and part of your life. John was also the tidy twin brother who always made his bed. He was by nature sociable, empathetic. Growing up, he always had his mates to sometimes get into mischief with. John experienced life through his hands. He wasn't the only one, as our brother Ted was much the same. We lived with the city rubbish dump close by and a constant source of projects for Ted and John to drag home and try to fix. both learnt a lot of skills right there. Family camping was part of our growing up. You might be thinking John's childhood was all chummy and tears, but there was another side. John was what we call a picky eater. He was a skinny kid, even by those times. His primary school experience for him was not good, and he was seen as a problem student. The more I thrived at school, the more it seemed that John failed. The school tried separating us into separate classes, didn't seem to work. So here we had young John, who in spite of the best efforts of our parents and the school, was seen as being underweight, underachieving, as well as proceeding with behavioural issues. There was only one thing for it. John got sent off to a health camp for vulnerable children for a few weeks, where I was told he would be given molasses to help build up his weight. There was, of course, more than molasses to health camps. John seemed to have enjoyed what he saw as a holiday. To me, he came back, he looked no different. He still flatly refused to eat eggs, and he didn't like school any better. And here was a kid who was learning how to handle life, difficulties from a young age. I mention all these different childhood experiences for John because when we see the child, we see the man. In this case, a man still fussy about his food and meticulously tidy, who was not afraid to bend some rules, who valued his friends and loyalty, who learned how to find refuge and peace in solitude, who expressed love through practical action, who put others before himself always, who learned how to achieve through tenacity, persistence and determination, who was kind and thoughtful, who loved his family, who had dogs in his life. If there is a single word that described John throughout his illness, I think that word is fortitude. From the beginning, he just seemed to accept the truth of the situation without rancor or complaint. What worried John the most was the thought of him being a burden to us. There is that time when someone close to you is dying and you say goodbye to them in some way. That time came for me when we were alone in his room. I was doing something to him that was probably both unnecessary and annoying for him. I leaned in close and I said, "I love you." John looked at me and he said, "Ditto."
Good afternoon, everybody. My name's Rod, short for Rodney. I'm actually Lynn's and Catherine's youngest brother. And when I was a much younger person, and I had younger children, we spent numerous times at Whittianga with John, with Lynn. My kids, ranging from 10 down to Jack. And what I can tell you about John was during that period he was incredibly kind, generous to my children, to me, and he was what I would put in the category of being a very quiet person, but very kind, very smart, and very generous. So, cut a long story short, is John, rest in peace, my friend, and basically, you deserve nothing else.
Afternoon, everybody. My name's Ivan Jenkins, and I'm Lynn's cousin. Again, as Ronald said, we had some good holidays up at Woody End with him, John and the kids. The fishing, taking us home to golf with Reese. It was paradise as far as I was concerned, that place for the end. John was a kind, thoughtful man. In fact, really, sum him up, he was a bloody good buddy. And look, we got to meet the neighbours and friends, and we had some really, really good social kindness. It was really good. My sister Yvonne and my mother Faye send their condolences, and they're sorry that they couldn't be here. Yeah, it's a long way to come up from that, out or so. Hey, look, John, rest in peace, and yeah.
Afternoon, everyone. My name's Les. I've had the pleasure of being John's neighbour for 12 years, and my dog was one of the dogs he wore out. We had a man cave event every Friday, about 4 to 7-ish, and then because he'd take the dog out about midday, and it'd be nothing like 3 hours, and his dog would absolutely start. Too tired to eat tea. And I got to him and I said, okay, and he goes, oh yeah, we go down the gorge and the walkways here. He said, yeah, we had a couple of young ladies, or young for him, and they were also walking dogs. So I thought, this man has an alternative meaning for me. But last Saturday was Mike and I are very glad that we actually managed to catch up with John before he passed. He deserves a great rest. He was one awesome guy, one awesome neighbour, and one awesome friend. RIP. And yeah, thank you.
Yeah, g'day everyone. My name's Jared. I'm one of the, there's a few of us here, Navy guys that came into the Casley world about 30 years ago, which is insane. And I was just thinking about then, 30 years ago, John would have been about my age as I am now. So it strikes me, after all the shit we put them through, to be honest, John and your mum were so kind to open their home to us, and we would show up and enforce. There's numerous stories. Some of them are okay for this room, some of them not. Some of the probably not so funny ones, but Jasper ended up with a felt tip pen drawn on the side of the dog. We thought it was hilarious. It's dog on dog. We took all the dirt bikes over the hill. One night got absolutely covered in mud. We came back and just destroyed the house with muddy overalls and bikes, and it was just an absolute shambles. The other one I remember is just taking the boat out all the time, going fishing, coming back, probably doing a shit job at washing it down to John's fastidious standards. The one thing that I remember of John is there were never more than, he was pretty economical with his words. So the house would be upside down, and he'd be like, it's not good. We'd get it, he'd be gone. So we didn't get a lot out of John, but he was always there. And like my parents, he opened his house to us, welcomed us in, made us feel part of the family, which has lasted almost half a lifetime, which has been really great. So I'll leave with one thing. As I get older, get more philosophical. I've got children of my own, and I believe that a man's legacy is by the actions that he takes and those that he's behind and the life that he shares. So he's clearly done a great job. So yeah, go well, John.
Certainly sounds a character, doesn't he? And had all you children in tow, whether they were family or not. At this time of the service... Oh, sorry, beg your pardon, come through, come through.
My name is Mike. I was John's neighbour. Now, it was a very sad circumstance that John and I had met. My wife, or my partner of many years, was passed away, and I moved back to the house we had at Mackeytown as a rental. And I was away for 4 or 5 days over the time of the funeral and that. And when I get back, my lawns are all mowed. The place is all tidy and neat. And I thought, oh, one of Christine's brothers had come and done it. It wasn't until about 3 weeks later when John introduced him to myself I find out that he'd done it. That's the sort of person he was. Anyway, he was working in the kiwi fruit orchards at that stage, and he'd be away for a week at a time. And we didn't really get to know each other too well, but I sort of kept an eye on his place for him. And one day he says to me, he had the Harley Davidson motorbike at that point in time, and he'd go off riding with the Ulysses Club every so often on the weekends. He said, I'm going to go down, I've never been down to the Catlins in the South Island. And he had a little transit camper van at the time. I thought, oh, he's going to go off on that, 2 or 3 weeks. He said, oh, I'm just going to go away for, for a couple of weeks. He said, I'm going on my motorbike. So off he goes. And about 4 days later, I go over to just do a patrol around his place, and he's home. And I said, oh, what happened? Did the ferry's not running or something? He says, no, I went down. We'd had quite a bit of bad weather, and he'd gone all the way down to the Catlins, gone through, and the weather had chased him all the way back in here, and I suppose it was 5 days. And I thought, I've got a different neighbour to most people. Yeah. So, no, good on you, John. And then I bought a launch not long after that, and he became my fishing mate and helper. And you couldn't... First time we had the boat out, we spent hours and hours and hours, probably 3 weeks on that boat, up on the Hard. And at the end of it, it was coming up to Christmas, so I put some money in an envelope and gave it to him, and he was mortified. He didn't want it. The only way I convinced him to keep it was I said, listen, split it amongst your grandkids for Christmas, He didn't like that at all, and I couldn't get him to, the next time we had the boat out, no, he wouldn't. I didn't try and force it on him. It'd come lunchtime and I'd go and buy a couple of pies. He wouldn't, it was hard to get him to accept that. It's the sort of joker he was, extremely generous in his own self towards people. He'd arrive at my place in the morning knowing that I'd planned maybe to do something, some work on the house or something like that. And here'd be thump on the back deck would be John, a couple of sawhorses, and then all the tools that arrive, and I've got quite a few of my own, but bits and pieces, he's ready to go, and there's no stopping him. So you're a great guy, John, and you're a wonderful neighbour and a friend to make later in my life, especially after my wife had gone. You were fantastic, so rest in peace, mate.
So I'm just going to share a memory. So when me and Chase would wake up early, because Dad wake me up and go, "You going to go visit Grampy today?" Oh, here we go, long walk. And I remember we bought some of this time, and it was a really funny one. We were going, then we went through the tunnel and round the back somewhere, and there was this Asian tourist group that was scared the hell of Summer, of the dog, and they all looked like they were about to fall off the cliff. And then Grampy went, "Row!" and barked at them. And the Asian lady got so scared we thought she was going to fall off the cliff. And then maybe 5 minutes after, Grampy goes, I wonder if they're scared of dogs. Yeah, I wonder too, Grampy. And at the end of the walk, of course, Summer was knackered as well, tired little leg, and that was around it. And then we went on other walks as well. Of course, you see the Asians and the dogs that's scared of them, but that one was definitely my funniest story. And that's about it.
So at this time of the service, we'll take this time for reflection. And as we view the photos that the family have put together of John's life, you will, during this time, individually feel time spent with John and your relationship that you've had with him. A time to reflect the good times, with maybe a chuckle, and maybe tears as time spent with him come to the surface. An individual moment that no one else can share. It was only special to you and John.
Well, I'm running down the road trying to loosen my load. I got 7 women on my mind. 4 that wanna own me, 2 that wanna stone me, 1 says she's a friend of mine. Take it easy, take it easy. Don't let the sound of your own wheels drive you crazy. Lighten up while you still can. Don't even try to understand. Just find a place to make your stand. Take it easy. Well, I'm standing on a corner in Winslow, Arizona. It's such a fine sight to see. It's a girl, my lord, in a flatbed Ford, slowing down to take a look at me. Come on, baby, don't say maybe. I gotta know if your sweet love is gonna save me. We may lose and we may win, but we will never be here again. So open up, I'm climbing in. So take it easy. Well, I'm running down the road trying to loosen my load. Got a world of trouble on my mind. Looking for a lover who won't blow my cover. She's so hard to find. Take it easy, take it easy. Don't let the sound of your own wheels make you crazy. Come on, baby, don't say maybe. I gotta know if your sweet love is gonna save me. Desperado, why don't you come to your senses? You've been out riding fences for so long now. Oh, you're a hard one, but I know that you got your reasons. These things that are pleasing you can hurt you somehow. Don't you draw the queen of diamonds, boy. She'll beat you if she's able. You know the queen of hearts is always your best bet. Now it seems to me some fine things have been laid upon your table, but you only want the ones that you can't get. Desperado, oh, you ain't getting no younger. Your pain and your hunger, they're driving you home. And freedom, oh, freedom, well, that's just some people talking. Your prison is walking through this world all alone. Don't your feet get cold in the wintertime? The sky won't snow and the sun won't shine. It's hard to tell the nighttime from the day. You're losing all your highs and lows. Ain't it funny how the feeling goes away? Desperado, why don't you come to your senses? Come down from your fences. Open the gate. It may be raining, but there's a rainbow above you. You better let somebody love you. Let somebody love you. Better let somebody love you before it's too late.
The power of photos. When you look back over the years that you've collected them, I think that'd probably be the most important, the most precious thing that we've been given are photos. Go now, our dear John, go in peace and with our love. It has been a true pleasure and a privilege, a life well lived and well loved. Please join the family on completion of this service, as is now, for refreshments and further stories that you'd like to share of John's life. Thank you.